There's two different days in the year that I question. There's Mother's Day and there's Father's Day.
Yeah.
As a trans person, as a trans woman, which one do I celebrate?
Whee! What a predicament.
Father's Day rolled around. I don't feel like a father. Mother's Day's tomorrow. I feel like a mom.
You're not, though.
Who celebrates me? It's not a situation of pity me or anything.
Oh, of course not.
I just genuinely want to know, is there other people out there that you don't know which one you fall under? Are you a mom? Are you a dad?
I can see how that could be confusing.
Why can't we just have a Parents' Day? Like, you're a parent, that's worth celebrating. Why does it have to be one or the other?
Is he serious?
It actually bothers me a lot, and I didn't think about that till today, and I don't know.
I'm sorry! No! Why?
What is a woman?
It's a woman it's a person who believes they're a woman.
No, but that's not a definition. What objectively is a woman?
Just anyone who believes they're a woman.
No, without using the word woman.
It's just a person who believes they're a woman. I mean, what's wrong with that?
The inability to answer the most fundamental, obvious biological question, what is a woman? This is not troubling. Like, it's so simple, it's so obvious. Last chance. Can you tell me what a woman is? Are you a woman?
Why are you so hateful?
I asked you what a woman was. That's not hateful.
I gave you the definition.
Why? Do you really hate me that bad?
No. Hi.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Melanie. I'm studying the unseen body in creative spaces, erasure and exposure of the queer.
Hey, I'm Nina, and I studied the arts, education, and social justice.
I'm Joyce. I studied decolonial intimacies, indigenous politics of resistance.
I'm Victoria, and I studied remembering or forgetting, navigating international conflict through collective memory.
Hi, I'm Kira, and I studied textiles and environmental justice.
Hi, I'm Nunyala. I'm studying living artfully, art as ritual, therapy, and pathways of decoloniality.
I'm Naomi, and I'm studying Black political economy.
Hi, I'm Natalie, and I'm studying fashion history and gender studies.
My name is Marie, and my concentration is the radical disruption for survival, development in sub-Saharan Africa, through social anthropology.
Hi, I'm Ava, and I study woman, fugitive family, relationships, and identity, the transformative Black woman.
You've spoken a little bit about your belief in the sanctity of life and the inviolable dignity of the human person. I take it that you accept evolution.
It depends what you mean by that.
Do you think we've evolved from primates?
I don't know.
Okay.
But I do believe in the biblical account of creation. I also acknowledge that there is an abundance of scientific research that shows adaptation. Mm-hmm. Species change is heavily inferred in the data. I don't know enough about it, but I believe the scriptures to be true. And you can be a theist and also believe in God-ushered evolution.
Yeah, I completely agree.
And so, of which I allow people much smarter than me to make determinations on that. It's completely irrelevant to my core theology, though.
Okay. Are you happy for me to proceed with the question, though, on that basis?
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but yeah.
No, that's fine. So you're kind of not vaguely, but you seem generally happy with the idea that maybe evolution is true. I hope that that's the case. I mean,
I don't believe that. I think that I'm not saying you said happy that evolution is true.
Well, not necessarily happy, but
that was the word you used, though, right?
Okay, fine. Willing to accept that based on the evidence, evolution is a fact.
No, I'm not saying it's a fact. I'm actually, again, I say I'm open to have my mind moved, and I look at the data, but I believe, given the abundance of equal data that atheists must reckon with, that there is a fine-tuning problem to our existence that I believe warrants that there is a God, intelligent life came from a God, and I believe the scriptures to be true. That in the creation account, there is an allowance to say that God created the heavens and the earth and allowed us to either evolve through species. I happen to believe, through a faith claim, that human beings are designed. What that means is designed over a long period of time or designed immediately. That's for people smarter than me to determine.
Fine. I suppose what I'm getting at is if you believe in the sanctity of life and that there is something fundamentally different between the life of, say, for instance, a human being and the life of an animal, does that not make that claim slightly arbitrary? What is personhood based in, if not? Oh, yeah. So do you see what I'm getting at?
Sort of. The scriptures say, though, that God created humans, male and female distinct. They're the only ones in Genesis 1:26, 1:27, to made in the image of God.
Right,
and
exactly.
so he called animals good, but they are not image bearers.
Okay,
but that word create is barah in Hebrew, and it's not clear whether or not that is created in an instant over a long period of time. And we as believers, I find no contradiction into saying that God could have created an instant, of which I would be pleased. I'll ask God when I get to heaven how this all unfolded. Or was it a process of adaptation and species change? Very smart Christians are on both sides of this issue. And so there's what we call in Christianity closed-hand theological issues and open-hand theological issues. Closed-hand issues would be like the resurrection of Christ, the Trinity, and then there's open-handed, which would be like eschatology or the Eucharist or the creation account. This one allows, given the verbiage, it could be either way.
Fine. I think just, I don't want to take up too much time then, but just kind of on that, you were talking a little bit about Christian values, and I'm intrigued by that. I get the sense that you're very much motivated by your faith. To what extent do you think Donald Trump embodies gospel values?
And because lawlessness will abound, the love of many will grow cold. That's Matthew 24 from verse 12. And in this phase, Jesus is warning about a time in the future when the world will experience significant breakdown of moral and ethical standards. Lawlessness refers to the absence or rejection of God's commandments, leading people to act without regard for justice, truth, or the well-being of others. Can you imagine? This societal decay is a sign of spiritual and moral decline where sin behaviors are normalized. Can you imagine? And the pursuit of personal desires takes precedence over loving and serving others. How terrible that is. That's terrible.
So he reminds me very much of Samson in the Bible. Both had... You can laugh. How many of you guys actually know about Samson? Great hair. He was a man willing to fight for a cause greater than he, despite some of his own moral troublings and moral missteps. All throughout the Bible, from King David to others, there are plenty of Abraham. Moses murdered somebody. How many people know that? Moses murdered somebody. How dare you? You could say a lot. Donald Trump has never murdered anybody. But Moses is like the most revered man in Judaism. You know, he was a murderer in Egypt. He took someone aside and just slammed him in the head and actually had to flee all the way to Midian because of it. We're all flawed. We all have original sin. How do I reconcile what he's doing with gospel values?
Well, for instance, I mean, the gospel values to me would be, humility, compassion, forgiveness. Sure. Does he live according to those values, do you think?
I actually, at times, I will say, he's far more magnanimous than people will give him credit. None of us are able to fill all those values. I will say some values that I think he does fulfill. He is a truth teller. And the gospel says very clearly that telling of the truth is one of the most fundamental things, the spoken word. So I'm not going to spend time here defining every moral decision that Donald Trump has made or not made. I am equally a sinner as Donald Trump. We all are. We all fall short of the glory of God. But I will say that his willingness to rise to the occasion of something greater than he, to endure being shot and almost shot again and almost 700 years in federal prison, is one of the most courageous actions I've ever seen from a public elected official in the history of the West.
Do you think Jesus would have voted for Trump?
Do I think Jesus? Well, first of all, Jesus intentionally didn't vote and did not care about the Roman guard. You remember he said, pay unto Caesar what is Caesar, render unto God's what is God. Do I think Jesus would love some of the stuff that Trump is doing?
It's a silly question, but I'm just,
No, I mean, fine. It's like, what did Jesus teach us? Jesus says, don't touch children. Okay, so he would love the fact that Donald Trump repealed Roe versus Wade. He would love the fact that child sex trafficking is being focused on in this current government. Jesus Christ said a lot of things such as, sin no more, and things such as love your neighbor are things that we should embody in every single one of our public policy decisions. So Jesus is divine, and he would not fill out a ballot.
Okay. All right, thank you for answering my questions.
Why should your moral belief be the end-all, be-all, and make the law and take away the right to a clean, safe abortion for women to have? Because you talk about 5% of women that are raped become pregnant. 5% is still 2.9 million women who have become pregnant from rape in their lifetime. Just because it's the minority statistics are real people. Shit happens. People become pregnant. People are raped. And the fact that you can sit here and say that the rapist baby, the seed or whatever you want to call it, the baby that's still in your belly and that it's not born yet, that you should be forced to have that, it's disgusting. And the fact that you can come over here and have an entire career based off of this, and I'm not done speaking, and then you can sit here in front of my friend who was a victim of rape and say that she should have that baby, it's disgusting. And you should be damn ashamed of yourself, and I don't believe that, and I'm not gonna fight until people like you do not have a place to come on here on my campus that I paid a school to go to and spew your fucking lies.
Well, I believe in the First Amendment. Do you believe in the First Amendment?
Do you?
Do you believe in the First Amendment? I've allowed you to sit here and scream at me for an hour and a half and
I'm saying I don't believe that you should have the right to take away my access to a clean, safe abortion as a human right. I have the right to have the autonomy over my own body. You have the right to your autonomy over your own body. We both get knocked up, have sex, both of us pregnant. You want to abort it? You don't want to abort it? Your decision. If I want to abort it, I'm going to fucking do that.
Okay.
So who are you to sit here and tell me
I don't want to own a slave,
that?
But you want to own a slave. Am I supposed to just sit around and say that?
Do not sit here in front of a microphone and compare owning a slave to me, you white fucking bitch. You have no idea to sit here and say this shit to me.
Ma'am, that is the argument you just made.
No, it's not. No, it is not. That is your incorrect interpretation. That is a logical fallacy. You think you can sit here and go ring around the rosy with me?
Are you done with your question? Because you asked me like.
You haven't answered anything. You've actually just made a statement and completely deterred my argument in a completely different way. Oh, do you think that you can own a slave? If I want to own a slave, can I own a slave? How can you sit here with a straight face and say that to me? How is you not embarrassed of yourself?
Do you want me to answer your question? How can you sit here and deny biology?
How can you sit here and deny biology? I'm going to ask you the same question.
Do you want me to answer your questions? If you will sit down, I will answer your question.
I'm going to stand right here and I want you to tell me how you think it's okay to compare owning a slave to having an abortion. And it's not even in the same ballpark.
Yes. Because
white people were not seen as people in this country.
Yes,
they were
just like what you've done time and time again tonight to an unborn child. You have argued.
Unborn child, not living. Black people already existed. They were born.
Unborn children are
like
living,
literally born into slavery.
Would you like me to answer your questions? I can't answer if you keep screaming at me. Do you want me to answer your questions?
I'm waiting.
Are you going to stop
Are
talking?
you going to answer my question?
Yes.
Or are you going to sit here and look stupid? I'm quiet right now. I'm quiet.
This is why we have the First Amendment, so they can
Am I speaking?
When you choose the action, you choose the consequence. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. You don't want the consequence? Don't choose the action. It's not difficult at all. It's not. Our actions directly impact the outcome of our lives. Every decision we make, no matter how big or small, sets into motion a series of events that leads to consequences, whether positive or negative, good or bad. That's just the way it is, ladies and gentlemen. These are life principles. We hold the keys to our own futures through the decisions we make today. Every action has a corresponding consequence. And if we learn to acknowledge that, we are better equipped to make choices that aligns with the values, the goals, and the desires that we want out of life. Literally, the power of this insight lies in its simplicity. Understand that actions and consequences are inseparable. You cannot separate these ones. And by making thoughtful decisions, we can create the life that we truly want to live. Literally, ladies and gentlemen, when we attempt to remove God from society, we strip away the moral foundation that upholds justice, integrity, and order. Without His guidance, absolute truth becomes subjective. Yes, and people begin to define right and wrong based on their own personal desires rather than a higher standard. Can you imagine? And this will lead to moral confusion, division, and an increase in selflessness, lawlessness, and corruption, ladies and gentlemen. Literally, history has shown that societies that distance themselves from God often experience a decline in values and erosion of the family structure and a rise in chaos as people seek fulfillment in temporal pleasures rather than the eternal truth. That's deep, that's concerning. And it's sad. Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, my greatest desire above all else is that one day these students will come to know the truth, come to know God, to truly encounter Him, and to find in Him a peace that surpasses all understanding. I long for them to lay down their burdens, their fears, and their restless strivings, and instead rest in the refuge and the grace that Jesus provides. May their hearts be softened. May they find light. May their eyes be opened. Their spirits drawn towards the truth of the gospel, the good news of Jesus Christ. For in finding God, Jesus Christ, they will discover a life transformed, one marked by hope, forgiveness, and peace that no earthly circumstance can shake. That is my deepest prayer for them. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to click on the next one, and please subscribe, like, and comment. I'll see you next time. Bye bye for now.